Well, we've talked about all sorts of different projects and ideas to do with our computers and tech equipment, whether or not it's working, or whether it's not working and we've turned it into a craft project. But perhaps there are some other things that you would like to do, like sell or donate your old equipment. Well, certainly you can do that too, and there are places that would love to take your old equipment, including Best Buy or Radio Shack or other stores do take tech equipment, but there are some things to consider first. Beware that if you're going to be giving away any equipment, computer equipment, cell phones, etc., you want to make sure to remove all of your personal information. Now, when it comes to a computer, simply deleting your documents and files doesn't really erase everything. The way a computer drive works is that until something is written over, kind of like the old cassette tapes, until it is actually overwritten with new material, the old material will remain. Even though you hit delete, you might have even put it in the trash and emptied the trash. It still remains somewhere on that computer. There is software available called Wipe Clean or other names like that that are designed specifically to make sure that all traces of you on the computer have been removed. So if you would like to donate your computer, perhaps to a school or another organization that would take it, recycle it in a place like a Radio Shack or a Best Buy that takes old equipment and disposes of it properly, or even just pass it along to a friend or a neighbor or someone in your family who doesn't have one, you'll want to make sure to get all of your information off first. Remember, if there's ever any kind of a crime or a problem nowadays, the first thing they do is confiscate the computers, because even if things have been erased, the computers hold evidence of where you've been, websites you've visited, things you've typed in, and those aren't things that you'll want to share with other people. Now, other places besides those stores I mentioned include things like Craigslist, where you may be able to sell or give away your old equipment, or FreeCycle, where people put up things for free, and the other people simply have to pick it up from you. But again, make sure everything has been wiped clean first. Here's a question from one of our viewers. A viewer wrote to me with a problem that he encountered when someone called on the phone and warned that his computer was acting slow and that he can help. This is what he said on the phone call. I see your computer is running very slowly. I have virus protection from our company that will help run a scan and clean all of the problems that are on your computer. Well, our viewer's computer was running slowly. So he thought, this is terrific. They're going to help him. Unfortunately, this company charged him $200 for virus protection. They ran a scan on his computer and charged his credit card. Well, the viewer wrote to us to ask, is this a problem? I took the name of the company, dropped it into Google to see what would happen, and unfortunately it was a scam. And this person was out $200. Be sure that if you're going to deal with any companies, that you check them out thoroughly first. Whether you're dealing with a computer company or if you're dealing with someone who's going to clean your chimneys or gutters at home, it's always a better idea if you contact the company rather than they contacted you. You always have to worry if someone is contacting you that they might have some sort of an ulterior motive. If you contact them because you've been recommended or referred or something, you have a much better chance of them being a reputable company. If you're not sure, you can always go to google.com, type in the name of the company, and see if there are any complaints or if they've been accused of scamming people or things like that. I'm hoping that our viewer gets back their money, but in the future, before giving out a credit card number to anybody or working with a company that hasn't been personally referred, you'll want to check them out first. I put on our website that we were going to be talking about reusing and recycling old equipment, and another viewer wrote in with this idea. Stephanie, it is possible to recycle other things besides computer equipment, such as ink cartridges. Well, terrific idea. I know that for myself, I buy all of my ink from the same office supply store, and every time I buy more ink, I return the ink cartridges, and they give me a credit towards more in the future. Other people buy ink that they refill the ink cartridges themselves. It saves money in the long run, and it also helps our landfills not get filled with all of these empty ink cartridges. Whatever you do, refill them yourself or return them to the store, perhaps for a credit. You certainly want to choose one of those options over simply throwing them in the garbage. Better for your pocketbook and better for the environment. Another viewer wrote in and said, well, here's an idea. If you're going to be throwing away thousands of computers at once, you could always consider dumping them into the ocean and creating an artificial reef, much the way subway cars are dumped into the ocean nowadays. Well, that's true. They are taking things like subway cars and creating artificial shipwrecks and other things in the ocean. But please don't take it upon yourself to start dumping computers into the ocean. Computers do have things inside, along with all those little parts and such that we made jewelry out of, that might release toxins in the water. So you want to be sure that it's okay for the environment. Not to mention, I'm sure if you started dumping garbage in the ocean, you are going to receive some sort of a citation. But it's an interesting idea. Here's another question from a viewer. I often lose my cell phone. Are there any programs available to help out? Well, you're in luck. Depending upon what kind of a cell phone you use, there are things available. When you sign up for your cell phone plan, you may want to talk about that, whether you're using Verizon or AT&T or whatever cell phone provider you're using. Depending upon the kind of phone, there are different options available. And if that's something that happens to you often, you might want to choose the phone that has those options. Those options are also available for not only finding your phone, but also finding your loved ones. For example, if you have teenagers at home and often want to know where they are, different cell phones and cell phone providers will be able to give you a program that you'll be able to just pull up on the computer, see an entire map of the area, and see where those phones are. And certainly with a teenager, where the phone is, the child can't be far behind. So whether you're the one who consistently loses their phone, or whether you'd like to keep tabs on some of the loved ones in your life, there are high-tech ways of doing it nowadays. So be sure when you're purchasing a new phone to ask, because it might mean the difference between choosing this phone or that one, just to get the one that's going to give you all the features you want. It's a good question. I'm glad you asked. I think we have time for one more question here. Dear Technically Speaking, I suddenly received a bill from iTunes for gold coins and a power boost. What does that mean? Good question. If you've ever gotten an odd bill for something like a rainbow or gold coins, and you have kids, I bet I know what happened. Lots of times people give an iPhone or an iPad or some other smartphone to a child to play with. It's a great babysitter and a way to pass the time. However, be aware that even if they're playing on a game and you were able to download that game for free, inside the game there are opportunities for spending money. They call these in-app purchases. An app or application is the game they are playing. There was actually a big lawsuit against one of these little children's games because parents were getting billed for $50, $60, $70 when their children were playing the game. Well, what happens during the game is that the child will be playing and the question will come up, would you like more gold coins to power up your little character? Well, of course, what child is going to say no to the opportunity of more gold coins or powering up or whatever it might be? So they click yes. Now, unfortunately, that phone or iPad is tied to your credit card account. So they clicked yes, and you're receiving a bill for it. Now, there are ways of turning this off in the settings of your phone or iPad to make sure that in-app purchases are not permitted. However, be aware that when you first get your phone or iPad, the default setting is that they are permitted. So it's something that you'll have to turn off to make sure that this doesn't happen. Well, that's all we have time for now. Be sure to visit us on the web at technicallyspeakingtv.com and write in with your questions to be featured here on Technically Speaking.